Well, we have a bunch of stuff to talk about, and as you can see by the title that we had, Invest 90L is with us. Invest 90L is with us. Now, you might be asking, well, what in the world is Invest 90L if you have no idea what that is? Well, that is an area that they are investigating out there in the Gulf right now. And if you remember us talking about that area of low pressure out there in the Gulf that had that 10, 20, 30% chance to form, that area has exploded with intensity, starting now to gain the attention of a bunch of people, even over at the National Hurricane Center. So, what is on tap for tonight? Obviously, we're going to actually just, before we go on and talk about the regular stuff that we do, we're going to talk about the tropics first. That's going to be first on the agenda today. Then we're going to talk about mostly dry and cooler conditions behind the cold front. Then rainfall returns as we go into tomorrow and Wednesday. Unsettled patterns returns with scattered showers and thunderstorms, warming trend Thursday and Friday, and continued periodic showers and thunderstorms in a summertime pattern again as we go into this weekend. All of that is on tap for you for tonight. So what is currently going on with this system right here? Well, this is the system. You can see right here, this is where Texas is. Texas is right here on, let me make this a little bit bigger, a lot bigger. Texas is this area right here. And then obviously you have, I'm just going to draw a star. That was a terrible star. But that's Texas up there. And then Mexico is down here at the bottom side. And so this whole system is dropping huge amounts of rainfall throughout these southern areas, huge amounts of rainfall over inside of this, inside of Mexico as well. And, you know, I already see that inside the chat over there in San Antonio where he said we did get about 1.5 inches of rainfall. Super excited about that. Well, I mean, with looking at this rainfall right now, I definitely do believe you on that front, just because it seems like a lot of rainfall right here. And so currently it's over land right now. Now, if you go on and take a look at the wording from the National Weather Service or the National Hurricane Center, this is at the 7 o'clock p.m. outlook or the 8 o'clock p.m. outlook here. A trough of low pressure located over northeastern Mexico continues to produce a large area of disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Development is not expected during the next day or so while the trough remains inland. However, the system could reemerge over the northwestern Gulf late Tuesday or Wednesday, and environmental conditions there are marginally conducive for the formation of a short-lived tropical storm on Wednesday into Thursday. Reminder, the first name of the season, obviously A, that being Arthur. Arthur is the first name for this hurricane season. Regardless of tropical cyclone formation, interest across the southern and eastern parts of Texas and portions of Louisiana and Mississippi should prepare for periods of intense rainfall over the next several days, which could produce widespread, life-threatening urban and river flooding. Gusty winds and coastal flooding are also possible along portions of the northwestern Gulf Coast, and tropical storm watches or warnings could be required tomorrow. So that is a lot of stuff. That is a lot of stuff here that we have to really look for as we move into the next couple of days. I mean, this was like at a 10% risk of forming, like not even about 48 hours ago or so, like a 10% risk. And now it has jumped up immensely all the way up to around a 50% chance of formation, not only over the next 48 hours, but over the next 7 days. So we are expecting to start to see this thing start to get off the coast. And when it does, I mean, it could form into Arthur real quick, real quick. And so, what are the models looking like? What are the ensembles looking like? Well, currently, the European right now is the strongest. I mean, it's stronger than the GFS right now, stronger, probably the strongest one right now between the two. And you can see one thing kind of happening here, and that is when it moves on to land, you kind of still see it staying strong. And so that's one of my main questions here with this system. what is it going to do when it gets onto land? Because some models have it strengthening. Yes, some models have it strengthening as it gets onto land. Just because obviously being hot, moist, all that kind of stuff, it kind of replicates like a warm, moist ocean atmosphere. And so, since that could potentially happen, it could there's a potential that this storm system right here, this tropical system right here, could gain strength over land, not only just like over water. It could gain strength over land. Now, I mean, if it does gain some strength over land, obviously it probably would not be as strong as if it was over the ocean. But there's a lot of questions here that we have to answer, that we have to see really what happens here. Because I really do think that that is a good possibility. I mean, it's rare, but it could happen. It definitely could happen. And you see millibars. Obviously, you know that the lower the millibars are, the stronger the actual storm is. So you see around a 996, 997. That's not too low, but that's probably somewhere near tropical storm territory right there. Somewhere at least weaker, probably on the weaker side right there. Now, as we go in and take a look at the GEFS, look at the GEFS not showing much at all. In fact, it shows this system pretty much trying to be done once you go into like a good amount of Texas, and then you see the median line kind of just going away. Like after 48 hours, the GEFS thinks that this thing for the most part is going to be done with. Now, it does have a couple of stragglers that do kind of take the track that the European model kind of took, but it's only like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or so. So that's not a whole lot. Not a whole lot at all. And comparing to how the GEFS has like 51 members to it, I believe. Like that's 5 out of 51. It's not a whole lot. So what do the individual models say? Well, let's go in and take a look at the GFS first, see what this one has to say. And just watch as we go into Tuesday, watch as we go into Wednesday, and let me move this over to the models real quick. There we go. We start off here Wednesday going all the way into Thursday. You do get a good plume of moisture. I mean, you can see Louisiana, you can see Mississippi, you can see Alabama, you can see Georgia, Florida getting a good amount of rainfall. But watch when it reaches South Carolina. It breaks apart a little bit. Still seeing some good beneficial rainfall here, which is great. Obviously, we know we have the drought going on right now, bringing us some not so great conditions, especially to the low country and to the Grand Strain areas. But this rainfall right here could definitely be beneficial. Maybe not as much as what they may receive over there in Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, but it would definitely bring us a good little dose of rainfall here. Even as you go into look at this Friday, going into Saturday, things calm down. But I'm really interested for Thursday and Friday, seeing what this system, what this low pressure right here could do as we go into the next couple of days or so. Now, what about the European? European's on a completely different wavelength here. You go on and look at Tuesday, starting off, you see all this rainfall. I mean, like a lot more rainfall than the GFS was showing. And then watch as you get into Wednesday. Watch as you get into Thursday. There goes that system right here. This system right here, this is the actual area of low pressure that we're watching for, kind of emerging going into Friday. And watch as you get into Friday night going into Saturday morning, you see the low pressure, it's not there anymore, but the low pressure would be around right here or so. And so this is the main system right here. You can see the rain bands with it, and it brings a good amount of rainfall to the state. In fact, it brings us maybe, I mean, honestly, it's kind of hard to say if it's going to be a washout or not. I mean, it's still far, far out, like about 100 hours plus or so. But it shows a good amount of rainfall that we were not seeing in models past. But, obviously once you get more and more into the future, models change, weather changes. So I'm not really too shocked by this at all. But it shows a good amount of rainfall going throughout the state all the way through Friday. But then as you move into Saturday and Sunday, it moves out. So one thing about this system right here is if it does end up turning into some sort of tropical storm or anything like that, it does seem like that it is going to move out pretty quickly, not going to stay that long. Now, how much rainfall are we looking from this? Well, if we go on and take a look at the GFS first, we're just going to go all the way into Saturday where this thing ends off at. Total QPF right now, it looks like that the GFS does not really look too happy right now in terms of moisture, because it does not show a whole lot at all. You see maybe an inch in some spots, but some other areas a 2/10 of an inch. And then if we go on and look at the European model kind of has us more at a more higher scale, because obviously the European is the one that's the more up and active model, has us around like an inch of rainfall all the way up to around 2-3 inches of rainfall here. So a good amount from the European here, and this would definitely help out our drought a lot, especially since if we get around 3 inches or so in about a week, I mean, that definitely would help out. Now, if we go and take a look at the ensembles, obviously we go and look at the GEFS first. Again, GEFS kind of has us mainly around a half an inch to around an inch or so on the ensemble scale. But if you look at the European ensemble, which is all of them put together in like an average basis, kind of shows us around half an inch all the way up to maybe around 2.5 inches or so. So we are definitely watching for this to kind of get more together as we move more and more into the future. We will continue to see models kind of disagreeing with one another on what's going to happen here with both of these systems, which honestly technically is both because there's one before, but they're going to get together as we get closer and closer and closer towards the actual impact time, which is this weekend, going to around like Thursday, Friday or so, going to Saturday. But that's pretty much all they have to say here in terms of the ensembles here, and just really in terms of this entire hurricane season forecast right here. I mean, that's pretty much all I can say. Nothing else really for me to talk about here, except for just make sure that your plans are in place, because obviously we know that if this storm does get going and it does end up being the worst case scenario, you need to be prepared for it. You can't be sitting around saying, well, I mean, they're saying it's only a 50-50, so it's a 50-50 shot that this thing won't even form, so I think I'll just wait. No, don't wait. Be ready. Be absolutely ready. We do not want to see anybody being caught off guard. I've been harping ever since like the middle of May or so, that hurricane season is coming. Make sure that all of your stuff is ready. Make sure that all of your stuff is prepared. Know your evacuation route if you need to go. Have plenty of water, plenty of food that won't go to waste, all of that stuff. I've been saying that for a long time now. And so hopefully everybody is prepared just in case this is a worst case scenario. Again, will it? We don't know. We're just going to have to continue to monitor it for right now. But 50%, nonetheless, though, it will bring us some beneficial rainfall, I guess, so that is a good way to look at it from that scale. But that's pretty much all that I have to say here in terms of the tropics. That was around a 13-minute update or so on the tropics. So we're going to go on now and move away from that, and let's go on and talk about our regular stuff that we do on a regular basis. And so we're going to start off first by seeing what's going on right now throughout the entire state of South Carolina. Well, right now, nothing. We're looking nice and dry. I don't think anybody is too shocked by that right now. If we scroll our way out, though, see what's going on throughout the entire U.S., you have some rainfall going on throughout Georgia, going on throughout Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas. I mean, you see rainfall going on throughout this entire area here, and then some severe weather going on over there once again. And down here in southern Texas, going on into Mexico, you can see that's where the actual invest is, and that's where the tropical disturbance is, even causing winds of up to 60 miles per hour right now down there in southern Texas. And then as we move further west, it gets a lot drier, so not really seeing much there either. Now, in terms of cloud cover, we do have some cloud cover in the upstate. We see some in the Midlands. We see some in the low country. I mean, every area right now seems to be trying to receive cloud cover activity right now. But if we go on and take a look at our cloud cover for the future, one thing that won't change is that cloud cover, because it seems like it wants to continue to stay with us even as we get into tomorrow evening, going into tomorrow night, going into Wednesday morning. But as you get into Wednesday afternoon, we're starting to see that cloud cover starting to dissipate a little bit. So we are, starting to see it go away a little bit, but not maybe as much as you would like. Current temperatures right now, we're talking about 80 in Somerville, as well as 83 in Charleston, 84 Beaufort, and 83 in Hilton Head Island, 81 in Georgetown, and 82 in Myrtle Beach, 81 in Conway, as well as 82 in Columbia, 77 in Newberry, and 76 in Greenville, 78 Spartanburg, and 79 in Gaffney, 78 York, Rock Hill, 77 in Clemson and Anderson. Now for our air quality for tonight, looks like that we're all good. We're all in the clear. So I think that we do not have anything to worry about here. If you're outside for a long period of time tonight, you don't have to worry about air quality. Low temperatures tonight, we're talking about 65 in Greenville, 64 Spartanburg, as well as 70 in Columbia, 71 in Orangeburg and Moncks Corner, as well as 76 in Charleston, 76 in Hilton Head Island, and 72 in Georgetown, 73 inside of Myrtle Beach. And then as you go into your high temperatures for tomorrow, 80 in Greenville, Spartanburg, Anderson, 85 Columbia, 85 Camden, as well as Sumter, 84 in Orangeburg, Kingstree, 85 in Florence, 83 in Myrtle Beach, and 86 from Charleston down into Hilton Head Island. Now, for your rainfall, as we move throughout the next 24 hours, we're talking about 1/10 of an inch to 1/10 of an inch. That goes from the Midlands all the way into the PD, Grand Strand, and the Low Country areas. But we're looking for some other areas that may even see 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch, and maybe even a 1/4 of an inch to a half of an inch as we move into the next 24 hours. So that is hopefully somebody does see that 1/4 of an inch to a half an inch, so we can continue to see that drought going away, especially where it seems like it may happen in the Low Country area. So hopefully that does happen. And then if we go into the SPC outlook, thunderstorm activity seems to not really be too much of a factor tonight. I guess they kind of just have it there, maybe just because the ingredients are there. But honestly, I don't really see that much of a threat for any sort of precipitation, especially thunderstorm activity throughout the rest of tonight. Maybe like early morning tomorrow, like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning or so. But for the most part, I'm just seeing morning shower activity here. So I guess we'll see what happens there. Then as we get into Tuesday, June the 16th, tomorrow, thunderstorms are possible from the Midlands to the PD, all the way down towards the coastal areas. And then on Wednesday, Low Country, same thing in like the western Grand Strand areas, southern Midlands, and then the very, very far upstate is included in a thunderstorm risk. Excessive rainfall wise, we do have a risk for excessive rainfall on tomorrow. Tomorrow, isolated flash flooding is possible over here near Augusta, and just along this border right here between South Carolina and Georgia. But nothing for day 3 and 4, but day 5, this is Friday, we have a slight risk of excessive rainfall that goes on all the way from Greenville to Spartanburg to Anderson, also going on in Lawrence. Walhalla is included in there as well. So if you're in the yellow for Friday, you have a 15% risk of excessive rainfall, meaning that scattered flash flooding is possible for you. And if you're in the green, that's isolated flash flooding. You have a 5% risk of flash flooding to occur. So from Rock Hill all the way down throughout the Midlands, all throughout the eastern half of the state, going on down into the Low Country areas once again. Now for the crazy score for tonight, we're at a 13. No significant weather. I think that we probably should be a bit higher than that. I think just because even though it's not completely cloudy, even though I guess that's the reason maybe why it's not pushing us down or pushing us up all the way, like you can definitely see some clear spots here. I'm not really sure if I would put it in the calm category per se. Remember, these scores are automated. They're not created by me. They are automated. So let's go on down and take a look at the models here. We're going to start off here at 9 o'clock p.m. And like I said, you're not seeing anything. You get into around 12 o'clock in the morning, you're seeing some drizzles going on, but overall, not too much. But then as you get to around 2 to 3 a.m., now we're starting to see some rainfall going on throughout the upstate. We're starting to see it go throughout the Low Country areas. And honestly, it looks like that it could just be some rainfall activity. I'm not seeing too much in terms of like heavy thunderstorm activity, heavy rainfall activity. Even as you get to around 5 a.m. or so, 5 a.m., things start to get a little bit more interesting here, seeing with some more heavier rainfall maybe trying to get going. And then as you get to around 7 a.m., going all the way to 8, 9 a.m. here, you can see some more rainfalls trending all the way from the Midlands all the way down into the coastal areas. So it seems like a lot of us get a good amount of rainfall, which is why we have that area of rainfall on the actual precipitation map. And as you go all the way into the afternoon, thunderstorms pop up once again. You go into the evening hours, you're still seeing thunderstorm activity, but watch as you get into Wednesday morning here, going into around 4 o'clock in the morning, all the way into around 9 o'clock in the morning. You're starting to see more rainfall pushing in towards the east. On 1 p.m. or so on Wednesday, 2 p.m. or so, you're starting to see thunderstorms moving in from Georgia, moving in from Alabama, and just continuing to move their way east once again. So I think that we will continue to just be back in that pattern that we once were in, where we had nice, maybe some nice condition during the morning hours, even though, Tuesday and Wednesday may not reflect that too much. But nicer activity. And then as you go into the afternoon, it looks like thunderstorm activity may be trying to make a return back. Now, as we go on and take a look at our long-term future, we're going to start off with the GFS first. And we're going to just go off where we just ended off at. Let's go ahead and move into the precipitation type here. We're going to start off here next week, Saturday, where we just ended off. And as we go on and push this forward all the way into Sunday of next week, going into Monday of next week, we're starting to see some more rainfall trying to move through. Maybe not a whole bunch, but it's definitely enough to definitely give us some relief, drought relief, if we still have a drought going on throughout some of these areas next week, which I think we will. But even as you go into Tuesday, I'm going into Wednesday and Thursday of next week, it does seem to be a lot more active. Now, there are some periods where it looks dry, almost like statewide. As we get into like Wednesday or so, you can kind of see it. Thursday or so, you can kind of see it. Friday, things start to get a little bit more active as you move even into the weekend, Saturday, Sunday. And then as we go into the week after next week, we're seeing more rainfall activity. So a good active period here might happen after we get past this week, going into next week and the week after. Now, how much rainfall are we going to see here as we move throughout the next 384 hours or so? Well, according to the GFS, kind of has us around 2.5 inches to maybe even around 3 inches or so. Good amount. Hopefully this does happen here so we can continue to see that drought go down. And if we go on and take a look at the European kind of has us around an inch and honestly like 0.8 or so, like 1.8, 1.9. I'm trying to get us to around 4 inches or so in some spots. So it looks like a good, kind of like a little agreement here. I think the European is a bit more broad, maybe looking at more of a further away precipitation total statewide compared to the GFS, which kind of has us a little bit more closer together. So now that all of that is out of the way, let's go on and take a look at our temperatures real quick, and we're about to go on and talk with the audience in just a moment. We're going to start off here with the anomalies first, and as we start off this week, obviously we know it's going to be a bit cooler than average. Cold front just moved through. We're going to continue to see some cooler temperatures. I mean, high temperatures for tomorrow, you just saw are in the 80s, so that's cooler than what we have been seeing with temperatures up into the 90s. So a big time relief day tomorrow. But watch it get into Thursday going into Friday. Things start to take a little bit of a turn. You see a little bit of a warming trend starting to get going on Thursday, but then as you get into Friday, things cool down. Another little cooler area, maybe trying to move throughout the state here going into the end of this week. Saturday, Sunday even, still looking cool. But then watch as you get into next week. Things seem to still try to take a turn towards the warmer side as we stay mostly kind of just near normal, maybe a little bit above and below average at times as we move into next week. So that battle between both of them continues statewide. And if we go on and take a look at our actual temperatures themselves, well, for right now, this seems like that they are obviously going to be in the 80s for tomorrow. We go into Wednesday, we're back up into the higher 80s, maybe getting back to some 90s on Thursday, but then Friday comes along, and Friday, high temperatures, mid-80s once again. Now, as we go into Saturday of this weekend, going into Sunday, we're going back up once again, up into the upper 90s. And then we continue more into the more like kind of all over the place. I mean, you're getting around 200 plus hours out, so probably shouldn't even be going that far anyway. But you're seeing for sure a bit more of a cooler temperature patch as we go now towards the end of the week now. And it seems like the GFS a little bit more confident in that. But then once you move into next week, things start to get a bit more on the warmer track. And if we go on and take a look at the ensembles real quick, just for this time frame, it looks like that we are still going to be looking at some overall average temperatures, which I don't know why it does this, but let me go in and refresh this again real quick. There we go. But it seems like that we're going to be continuing to just stay up into the 90s in terms of an average scale. In fact, it looks like those averages are just continuing to go up more and more, even as you get into July. We're so far out now into this month because it is actually the 15th. I just realized that. So we actually, yeah, we are halfway through the month of June. I just realized that was today. So because of that, we're just going to go on and give ourselves a round of applause for that. I just realized that. So yeah, we are technically halfway. So since we are, models are starting to show more of July now, and more into like those first couple of days there. Obviously, that's still way too far out, but we're now halfway through here. So let's go on and talk with the audience. There's a whole lot to talk about here, including all the stuff with the tropics, including all the stuff with these models here. But let's go on now and talk with the audience. If you want to be a part of the audience, you can by joining us here at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Let's see what the audience has to say here for tonight. Starting off with Mr. Chris, he was here first tonight. He says, good evening, everyone. Got you around 90 degrees here in Moncks Corner. Currently, it's 80 with the heat index of 84. And then he also says, please remember to go and hit the like button and the subscribe button. Also share with everyone you know. It's free, and it helps the channel grow. Absolutely. We've been on a growing streak. We've been on a growing streak for the past couple of days. I mean, we grew all the way from the low 740s all the way up into the 750s. We are now 3/4 of a way to 1,000, and we are half of the way there to 800. So we've been growing. We need to keep it going, though. Work does not stop, obviously. Work does not stop. Also, thank you so much for that weather report for where you are. In terms of what's going on right now at my house, well, it seems like it's around 79, and then the high temperature for today was around 91. My name says hello, Jay and all. Hello to you. Not a bad day, a little warm, but it was good. Charles says, greetings, everyone. Beautiful, normal, not too hot day. Or not too hot day. Okay. Beautiful, not too hot day. Well, thank you so much for that weather report for where you are. Then my name says, was only outside for a short period of time. Mr. Michael comes in and says, happy Monday. Hopefully everyone enjoyed a good day. Well, thank you so much for that. I sure did. Thad says, good evening, Joseph and the 360 Weather family. I trust all is well. It was truly a beautiful day here in San Antonio. We did not get into the 90s, so that was great. And then we did get around 1.5 inches of rain. Thank you so much for that weather report for where you are. Mr. Anthony says, good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. And then my Aunt Lewis says, good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. Georgetown high was around 91. Currently, it's around 82. Thank you so much for that weather report. And then Mr. Chris says, most definitely a little cooler is better than nothing. Absolutely. I think as we go into, obviously, tomorrow, we're going to see those highs in the mid-80s, which, again, may not be as cool as you may want it to be, but it definitely is cooler than what we have been seeing. And I didn't even show the heat index values, but the heat index values for tomorrow, like only the low 90s. So a huge decrease from what we've been seeing, like 109 in Charleston. Now Charleston's at 91. And so that's all that I can see here throughout the chat here for tonight. So let's go on real quick and talk about the 4 areas outside of South Carolina. You might be asking, 4 areas outside of South Carolina. What am I talking about? I'm talking about San Antonio, Texas, Raleigh, North Carolina, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as well as Duncan, Oklahoma. The reason why we talk about these 4 areas is because we have people from these areas who tune in almost nightly. And because they tune in almost nightly, we're going to give them their forecast for them. Starting off with San Antonio first, you have low temperatures tonight at around 74. High temperatures for tomorrow at 84, and then low temperatures tomorrow night at 73. Showers are likely tonight. Tomorrow, showers are also likely tomorrow. Tomorrow night, though, looks like that you are all inside of the clear here. In terms of excessive rainfall, honestly, you have a risk of excessive rainfall. I mean, tonight you have a slight risk of excessive rainfall. You have a 15% risk of flash flooding tonight. Tomorrow, you have a 5% risk of flash flooding for you for tomorrow. And then after that, you're good until Friday, to where you have another slight risk of excessive rainfall. So I will say, you are definitely not going to get the brute force of this flooding. I think areas like Corpus Christi, Houston, going up into Alexandria, Jackson, Mississippi, those areas are going to get hit the hardest for sure in terms of flooding. I think Baton Rouge will be included in there as well. Close to Hattiesburg, but not quite there. And then down to Lafayette, going down into Beaumont, Texas, those areas will continue to receive rainfall day after day after day. While you over there in San Antonio, you have a risk for tonight and tomorrow, but once you get past tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday, you look like that you are in the clear until around Friday. So you definitely are not going to get the brute force of this flooding event from Invest 90 here. And then in terms of your future, temperature-wise, going to look like you're going to continue to rise up all the way to around 84 on obviously tomorrow, 89 on Wednesday, and then up to 96 on Thursday. So your temperatures are going to be hot once again. And then in terms of your precipitation looks to take a little bit of a break Wednesday and Thursday, but then Friday, going into next week or so, looks like it's back to being active once again. Also, I did not put out a top fan question of the night for tonight, so we're gonna go on and do it. And I think we have to include the tropics. I mean, it was the kind of the topic, so I think I'm gonna include it. And okay. All of these, I mean, all the questions that I'm thinking about right now are kind of easy, and there's not really one hard one throughout here. So I think I'm gonna say this. Let's see. Yeah, I'm gonna ask a very easy one. Very easy one. This is a layup. This is like an easy layup. So please be ready to type, because this is an easy layup question that I think that if you were here at all, you know the answer. I mean, this is an easy layup question. So I'm gonna give you all a second right here. Just gonna give you all about 5 seconds here. What model was it that I said? Which model was the one that was the more like active one? Which one did I say that if this storm was to happen, which one kind of showed the more worst case scenario? Which one showed the more worst case scenario? That's a layup, easy question right there. But we're gonna wait. We're gonna see what happens here. But we're gonna go ahead and move on to Raleigh real quick. Low temperatures tonight at 64. High temperatures for tomorrow at around 85, and then low temperatures tomorrow night at around 68. No precipitation tonight, but tomorrow we're not looking for anything there. But tomorrow night, chance of showers there. Chance of showers there. Now, as you go in and take a look at your severe weather, excessive rainfall, severe weather-wise, it looks like that you are good. You're in the clear there. Excessive rainfall-wise, you do have a risk for some excessive rainfall. Not for tonight, tomorrow, Wednesday, or Thursday. It's Friday. Friday, isolated flash flooding for you is expected. So make sure that you're watching out there for Friday. And then for your future, looks like temperatures for you are going to continue to increase. Thursday, you're going to have a high temperature of 100 degrees. 100 degrees. So it's going to be hot for you as you move later into the week. But don't worry, you're going to have some relief down to the 80s, at least on Saturday, but then Sunday comes along and you're back up into the 90s, back into the high 90s next week. Rainfall-wise, you're also going to be up there pretty active as you move into around Tuesday night, obviously tomorrow. Wednesday, you look dry, but then Thursday onward, not including the weekend, active for you. So yeah, we already have some answers. Thad says European, Mr. Daniel says European, and then Mr. Chris says GFS. Well, it was not the GFS, so I'm so sorry, Mr. Chris, but that is not the correct answer. But from what I can see, Thad got the answer in first, so he is the winner for tonight. Congratulations to you for winning the top fan question of the night for tonight. We'll go over honorable mentions in just a moment. But thank you to everybody who did participate in that. Now for Philadelphia being the third area, low temperatures tonight at 58, high temperature for tomorrow at 79, and then low temperatures tomorrow night at 60. No precipitation tonight or tomorrow. But going into around Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, things are going to get a little bit more active. The weekend looks dry once again. But then as you go into Monday of next week, things start to get back to being active. And then in terms of severe weather for you, in terms of excessive rainfall, severe weather, you have a risk of severe weather on Thursday, a slight risk of severe weather. So you have a 15% risk of seeing severe weather on Thursday. And then as you go into your excessive rainfall risk, it looks like that you're good there. So you're not expecting any sort of flash flooding for right now. And then in terms of your temperatures for the future, it looks like you're going to continue to kind of go up and up and up. Thursday, you're around 90 or so. But then Friday, going into the weekend, you're back down to the 80s once again. Finally, for Duncan, Oklahoma, you have low temperatures tonight at 64, high temperatures for tomorrow at 90, and then low temperatures tomorrow night at 72. No precipitation is expected until around Thursday. Excessive rainfall is definitely in your forecast for you as you move into Friday. And then not really too much in terms of temperature changes. You're going to continue to stay up into the 90s, except for maybe on Friday. Friday, you may be up down to like the 80s, but from now until like next week, Monday, your high temperatures are going to be up into the 90s. And then that's pretty much all I have to say here in terms of these 4 areas. So what's going on right now throughout the entire U.S. weather news-wise? Well, for right now, it does look like that excessive rainfall may produce locally considerable flash flooding over parts of South Texas, the western Gulf Coast, and the lower Mississippi River Valley today into Thursday. Rainfall totals of up to 5 to 10 inches are expected. And then hot temperatures may cause heat illnesses over the central and northern California and the Pacific Northwest all the way through into tomorrow. All of that, and then also some fire weather will also be in the forecast as well for the Four Corners regions, going on into the western high plains, going on over into parts of the Rockies and eastern Washington State and Oregon. And I think that's all I have to say here for tonight. Let me see, is there anything else on the chat from me? I don't see anything else here, so I assume that I am all done here. If you have not hit the like button yet or the subscribe button yet, go on and do so. We are at 750. We are halfway there to 800 subscribers and 3/4 of the way there to 1,000. Let's continue to push on there. Halfway there officially. And obviously when we get there, we'll figure out what the celebration is going to be. I don't know what the celebration is going to be quite yet for 800. Haven't been thinking about that yet. I probably should start thinking about that, but for right now, I've not been thinking about that. So we'll see what happens for 800 subscribers though. And then remember, share with your friends, your family members, your acquaintances, people that you don't talk to regularly, because it's free. I will always harp on a free channel. This channel will always be free. You will never, ever have to pay money to watch this, ever. You will never, ever, ever have to pay money to watch this, ever. And that's all. So I'll be back tomorrow morning with your Tuesday morning forecast update. It should be out pretty early, like 7 o'clock in the morning or so. So if you're up that early, should be up or should be there pretty early. And then also tomorrow evening, same thing, Tuesday evening forecast update. Make sure you hit those 2 buttons before you leave if you're new.